Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane Kennedy.
I'm Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
All right, Nico. So it's been a couple weeks.
It has been a while.
Something very big happened last week.
Huge.
Big.
Huge.
The first presidential debate of 2024, right?
Indeed. What do you got going on there?
I'm fixing my mic stand. There we go. Okay. All right. So, what are your initial thoughts on the debate?
All right. So, Trump did not have a good night, but Biden had a horrible night. That's the only way I could phrase that. In all honesty, if that would have been anyone else up there, right, we would all agree, I think unanimously, Trump didn't have a good night. Biden had the worst night ever, though. So that was the saving grace.
Yeah.
And I think tactfully, I know we're going to get in depth to this, but I think my one moment I would take out of there is when Biden was incoherent and he
Which time?
I mean, this one, dude, no one knew what happened. Like, it was gone, and it was so tactful. I don't know if Trump's PR team talked to him and was like, hey, look, you can't use 2016 tactics here, because if you come across as a bully, it's going to look like elder abuse. And I'm not being funny. Like, it's going to look like you're picking on someone's grandfather. You know what I mean? Like their 90-year-old grandfather. So he handled it so beautifully. And this is my one big takeaway from this debate. And I think this will literally be a deciding factor, and I'm not kidding. So I don't remember the exact question, but Biden answered it like 17 times in like quarter sentences, and then he ended it with he was like, I don't remember, he was like abortion or something like that, and the speaker was just like mouth open, just like, and he goes, all right, President Trump, how do you respond? And Trump beautifully, he was like, I don't know what he just said, and I don't think he knows what he just said, but I'm going to try to answer your question. And it wasn't mean. His tonality didn't change. It almost sounded sympathetic. Like, I don't think this guy knows where he's at right now. And another thing Trump did is they kept saying Trump wasn't answering questions. I think that was on purpose, because you can tell Biden rehearsed those points over and over and over. They probably had his old ass sitting in a room, like 4 of them, just pounding him on repeat on these questions. And Trump would specifically go to other topics. Biden would bait on it and then start answering, but he couldn't, because it had nothing to do with the talking point. And then Trump would go back to talking about it, and you could tell Biden was fucking derailed. And I think I think that was done by design.
Well, they had Joe Biden locked down in Camp David for a week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Before the debate.
Drilling his ass.
And drilling him. One thing I'll say is my takeaway from the debate, I actually think that Joe Biden overperformed. So my expectation was that it was going to be an absolute shit show on Joe Biden's part. And when I say that, I mean literally, like what happened at the D-Day.
Shit himself.
Yeah, like what happened at the D-Day anniversary.
Two times.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And what happened when he went and visited the Pope too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But surprisingly, it didn't look like that happened. Mm-hmm. So I would say overall, he overperformed.
That's true.
Now, so a couple of things. I think that. So CNN and the Democratic Party were the ones that kind of set up the rules for this debate, and what they did was they figured that they schemed, and they were like, ha ha ha, what we're going to do is we're going to create 2 rules that are going to make this thing hell for Donald Trump.
No audience.
Yeah, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and all them. And no audience, because what they were like is Donald Trump's a populist, so he thrives off of the crowd. He thrives off the people.
He works the crowd into it. Yeah.
He thrives off the people. He believes in the people. And they're like, we believe in democracy.
Fuck the people.
Yeah, we believe in democracy, not the people.
Yeah.
And so you have that. And then the cutting off of the mics, the muting of the mics when it wasn't their turn to speak. Mm-hmm. I think that made Trump look a lot more presidential, and it made him look a lot less aggressive.
Correct.
And the thing is, if they would have allowed Donald Trump to continue talking and interrupt Joe Biden, then I think you're right. It would have made Donald Trump look like somebody who's bullying, basically like a hospice patient.
Yeah, someone with fucking Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That shits themselves. Quite literally, both those things.
My favorite thing that Joe Biden said during the debate was, remember when he ended one of his responses that had nothing to do with Medicare by saying that he beat Medicare? and the thing is, I'm surprised that libertarians were not saying, you know what, we're considering voting for Joe Biden now because he just announced that he beat Medicare.
He beat it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm with you 100%. I truly believe, I think the Democrats were like, okay, no mics, no crowd, and liberal moderators, right? Mm-hmm. No way he accepts this debate. And then he was like, okay. I think they're like, oh, fuck.
Well, and even in the interview that Donald Trump gave a few days before the debate, I think it was on Axios or it might have been Vox or something like that. They were asking Donald Trump about why would you accept the terms of this debate and everything, and Donald Trump said, well, they thought that I was going to decline it and that it would put them in a position of power. And then Donald Trump, he kind of sat back and he was like, I also couldn't resist.
Dude, the fucking balls on that guy.
Dude.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I couldn't resist.
I couldn't resist it.
Yeah, so I think that Donald Trump is. I think he came out the clear winner the way that the unsinkable Molly Brown came out the winner at the sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah. I do not think, for all intents and purposes, if this would have been a normal debate with someone that was comparable or someone that was fucking coherent, dude, you could have picked anyone and put them over there. Mm-hmm. I really don't think Trump had that strong of a night. I don't. Here's my big thing, and I truly believe this because you saw the after effects. There was a lot of Democrats. They were worried after that debate. They finally saw what everyone was saying 4 years ago, and they said that we were being mean, that we were being bullies, that Joe Biden was fine.
Being racist?
Yeah. No, you can't be racist against Joe Biden. We're white.
Well, these are liberals that we're talking about.
You're right. That we were being racist. Yeah. And they were like, Joe Biden's fine. You guys are saying his mental capacity. No way. They had to accept it. And I literally saw CNN anchors and guests on their shows. They finally accepted. You saw it on them, and they were worried. And I'm telling you right now, there's not a Republican in the world, right? Or I should say America. There's not a Republican in America that's going to the polling booths and not voting for Donald Trump.
Well, and that's one of the number one issues is Joe Biden's age.
And Trump's not that much younger, was he? 2 years younger?
I think it's something like 4 years younger or something. But
okay.
This is the thing: is one person will wear, let's say, the age of 80 very differently from another person.
Correct. All the time.
And the thing is, they'll try to say, oh, it has to do with alcohol consumption or smoking or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, there's actually no statistically significant relationship there. Mm-hmm. A lot of it really just comes down to maybe genetics or it's something else.
Well, Trump even stated, he's like, I've taken 2 cognitive tests in the last 6 months, and I passed them both. He's like, is Joe Biden willing to do that? And Joe Biden's not willing to Joe Biden's handlers are not willing to allow him to do that. Of course not, because they know that he wouldn't pass it. And real quick, the point I wanted to make is there's not a Republican in America that's going to the voting booths and not voting for Donald Trump. I truly believe that. Not one. There are Democrats out there right now that are in their socialist group settings and they're talking with their friends and they're loyalists and they're not openly saying it, but there are Democrats out there that are going to go to that voting booth and they are not voting for Joe Biden. Now, I'm not saying they might not vote for like Kennedy or something like that. You know what I mean? Vote for an independent, but they're certainly not voting for Joe Biden. And I think that could be a big thing. I think Joe Biden's at a huge disadvantage because if Kennedy pulls enough away from him, I think this could be a very bad thing. There's not going to be enough libertarians that pull away from the conservative party.
No. A lot of libertarians are going to be voting for Donald Trump.
I believe so, too.
Yeah.
Because the person we have running on, what's his name?
Chase Oliver.
Chase Oliver. No one's voting for fucking Chase Oliver. No one likes the guy. It's a fucking clown show. The Libertarian Party's in total disarray. That's another topic. But I think Kennedy could potentially fuck Joe Biden out of this.
Big time.
Which leads us to another topic once we get there of if it's even going to be Joe Biden.
Let's table that for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to say is, that was a really interesting thing you just brought up, that a lot of Democrats, a lot of liberals, a lot of socialists, a lot of progressive, well, not necessarily the progressives, because a lot of the progressives have also been pointing out the cognitive decline of Joe Biden for quite a while too. Mm-hmm. I think the reason that so many kind of like mainline like white CNN, New York Times reading liberals were so shocked at Joe Biden's performance is in the media ecosystems that they watch and they read, like MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all these types of things, and NPR. That's the world. That's the little ecosystem that they live in. That's what we typically call that the mainstream media, right? Mm-hmm. And we call it mainstream media because it's the media you can't really escape. If the New York Times writes an article about something or reports news about something a particular way, you can't escape you can't escape that being a headline. If NBC News and CBS News and CNN and MSNBC, if they report something a certain way, you really can't escape it, because that stuff will be distributed to all the channels. Mm-hmm. And all the channels will be talking about what all the other channels are reporting, right? So people that are, I'm not even going to say conservatives, just people that are not mainline white establishment liberals, they have their little like alternate media ecosystems. Mm-hmm. But so this is the thing, is if we're talking about like Fox News, or we're talking about Drudge Report, or we're talking about we're talking about kind of like the little alternate media, conservative media, libertarian media, progressive media, whatever. Mainline establishment liberals, they can go their entire lives without ever being exposed to news presented from an alternate point of view.
Correct.
But if you're a libertarian, if you're a progressive, if you're a conservative, you're going to be getting news from your alternate source, but you can't escape being exposed to the reporting from the mainline media, mm-hmm. from mainstream media, which is largely dominated by white wealthy establishment liberals. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, you can't escape their point of view, but they have to seek your point of view out. Correct,
because it's such a smaller outlet of the media. You know what I'm saying? The market share is so much smaller for that point of view.
Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons that people that watch Fox News, people that follow Mother Jones, and people that follow alternate libertarian media, people that have Twitter accounts, you've been exposed on a regular basis to all of the Biden gaffes over and over and over again, with him saying I can summarize America in one word, and that word is no. Yeah, yeah, and all these insane things that Joe Biden has said. Like remember when he was running for president in 2020, he went and he was being interviewed. I think it was on. I don't remember what the podcast was, but remember when he said, "If you don't vote for me, then you ain't black."
You ain't black. They recanted that recently, though, didn't they? Didn't they actually address that?
Well, the thing is, CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and stuff, they didn't even report on that. So most mainline white establishment liberals, they didn't even know about that. That they had no idea that Joe Biden had said that. It wouldn't have changed their opinion of him. But and so the only thing that they've been exposed to is that Joe Biden, yeah, he's getting a little bit older and stuff, but Joe's a dynamo. You know,
Joe's the guy.
Yeah,
he's cool Joe.
Yeah, behind closed doors, Joe's a dynamo. But behind closed doors, Joe is witty as can be. Mm-hmm. Joe will reach into his pocket, he'll hand you a caramel candy, and he'll tell you a joke.
Have you seen him? I don't know what kind of mechanism this is, but like when he walks around at events and stuff and they're not talking, he's just kind of walking. Mm-hmm. He's kind of slunched. He kind of like walks around and then he pulls out his aviators and just puts them on. Have you noticed that? It's like always the go-to. Mm-hmm. I wonder what that is. Like it's like a fucking. They could be in like a room. It's not even like the sun's out or anything. He just like walks, takes a couple steps, looks at space, and then puts the aviators on. He's
probably been trained to do that, so that you don't see his eyes wandering around the room.
You think so?
Yeah,
he's fucking just.
Yeah, because he's probably just.
That was kind of my point. Do you think it's like he's like it? You think he's cognitive to know like, oh fuck, man, I need to put my sunglasses on?
Well, he's probably just been taught that's what you do when you go into the room, Joe.
Like little kids are taught, don't touch a hot oven.
Yeah,
you just put your sunglasses on.
Yeah, like you spend an entire week like drilling him, and you're you're like, yeah, you walk into a room and you put the sunglasses on, Joe. Mm-hmm. Joe, put the sunglasses on.
Dude, you know? It's fucking wild.
But you know, bigger. So this is the last thing I'll say about this. Bigger picture. I think the reason the Democrats have absolutely loved the Joe Biden presidency is that Joe Biden's not actually running it. That it's all the people whose names you don't know that are behind the scenes that are actually running the show.
That can't be true. I disagree.
And the Democrats love it.
Disagree. I'm pretty sure last time I looked it up, I believe, don't quote me, I believe he's either between the 13th and 15th most popular president of all time. That just came out recently. Obama was number 7. Obviously, Lincoln was number 1. So I disagree with you. He's definitely running it. You can't be the 15th most popular president of all time, dude.
Well, look, just because somebody's popular does not mean that they're running the show. You know?
You think he's taking credit for other people's work?
Have you seen have you seen videos of Dick Van Dyke?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He's almost 100 years old, isn't he? And you know, and Dick Van Dyke, he's still relatively popular.
Yeah.
Among the people who know who he is.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you one thing. He's probably not making decisions about his life. And he's probably not in full control whenever he has a bowel movement. You know, a lot like our president.
Hey, we're gonna be old one day.
Yeah, yes, we will. But you know what, though, I would certainly hope that at that stage in life, that you and I would both know to kind of step aside from if you or I were president, to step aside from the presidency and make room for the next generation to come in and take care of things.
And not to get off topic, but just to kind of hound on that particular little thread right there, just to pull on it a little bit, see if it unravels. We're both history nerds, but
you're a nerd.
Okay, we're both history nerds, big time. But you remember facts a little better than I do. I'm more of a generalized guy, just so I like to get the gold nuggets and move on. And you like mine all the dirt shit. You love getting in it. Our founding fathers, right? Mm-hmm. It's always said that this country, you know, it's like old white men run this country. It was started by old white men, right? That's not even true, though, right? Like, we got 2 dinosaurs running for president, but our founding fathers wasn't, like, the oldest one, Ben Franklin was in his 70s, right? Mm-hmm. George Washington was like 44, I think. The rest of them, or the majority of them, were all younger than that, weren't they? Wasn't Thomas Jefferson like 33 when they first all got together? And I think the youngest one, I don't remember who it was. He was 18, wasn't he?
I think so.
Like, what the fuck are they talking about? They act like our founding fathers were ancient. All of them were young. Washington was looked to as like the most, you know, influential of them all, and he was 44.
Well, what I've noticed is a lot of the people that say things like that history is just a story of a bunch of old dead white men or whatever.
They weren't old.
But the thing is, a lot of the time the people who say that, they don't know a thing about history. Yeah. And they don't really know a whole lot about anything.
They don't.
Generally speaking.
Why do we have 2 people? I'm sorry, dude. Why do we have 2 people that are in their 70s and 80s Like, theoretically, they would both end their presidency in their 80s, correct? At this point?
Oh, definitely.
Trump's 78?
Something like that.
And Biden's 80...
Like early 80s.
Okay, and don't quote me on that. I might be wrong about those. I think they both would end in the early 80s at the end of this next presidency. What the fuck are we doing? We know for a fact that these guys can't even comprehend upcoming technologies. And I know they got staffers and they got all the shit, but their hands not on the pulse. They live in a generation where they remember, both of them, when black people drank out of separate water fountains. What are we doing?
So I'll say this. I think it's a generational thing, because now Joe Biden is technically silent generation. He's technically not a boomer, but he might as well be, because he behaves just like one.
There's no way he's not a boomer.
Joe Biden was born in, like, was it 1943 or somewhere around there? Technically, boomers were born in like 1946.
You're right. It had to be after 45. Yeah.
But the thing is,
he's even older than boomers.
But the thing is, Joe Biden behaves like a boomer. I mean,
of course, there's not enough of a difference.
For all intents and purposes, Joe Biden is a boomer.
Is a boomer, yeah.
You know, so the thing is,
that's like millennials born in 2000, fucking whatever, 2002.
Yeah,
that's not a fucking millennial.
Millennials were roughly the early 80s to late 90s, roughly
to 95.
But this is the thing: is Joe Biden is he's the poster boy for boomers in power. Boomers, when they were younger, were all about, like, oh, free love. They went and, like, they went and banged every single thing that would move. They went and smoked, drank, and snorted every single thing that they possibly could put into their bodies. They did all kinds of psychedelic shit, you know. And then
am I a boomer?
No. Listen, then boomers became the most aggressive capitalists,
yes,
that this country has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
The boomers are the wealthiest generation of Americans that have ever lived. A lot of that is because a big part of it is that the generation that preceded them handed a very wealthy America over to them, and then the boomers used all that wealth to consume a bunch of shit. Mm-hmm. And so that they could hold on to it.
Well, they consolidated the wealth.
So, yeah. Well, not just that, but instead of reinvesting it back into the country and passing it on to the next generation,
that's what I'm saying. They
which would be Gen X and millennials, they're holding on to it, and they will try to be buried with that money.
Yeah, like the pharaohs in Egypt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They consolidated wealth. That they took it on, and they did not reinvest it back in. That's why you saw the decline in America had its fucking was skyrocketing there.
Well, and this is the thing. Look at Mitch McConnell. Mm-hmm. Whenever Mitch McConnell, who looks like a turtle who had a stroke, whenever Mitch McConnell goes out and gives press conferences, I think he's having a mini stroke every single time that he has a press conference. Then you have Nancy Pelosi, who goes on to news shows and stuff, and she talks like she's slurring her words like she's drunk, or she just had a stroke.
Probably both.
Yeah, probably.
She's probably hammered, dude.
Yeah, and so the thing is, Nancy Pelosi's in her 80s too, and I think Mitch McConnell is. If Mitch McConnell isn't, he looks like he's at least in his 80s. But the thing is, they will not relinquish power. The only way they're going to relinquish power is when they die, and I think a big part of it. This is just me speculating, so take that for whatever it's worth. And I just hit the microphone with my nose. So take the speculating for whatever it's worth.
Oh God.
I think the generation that preceded the boomers, they were much more authentically religious. People call them the greatest generation and the silent generation.
Oh, preceded. I'm sorry.
That preceded them. The silent generation, the greatest generation are the ones who fought and won World War II. The silent generation are the ones who grew up in their childhood during the time of the Great Depression and World War II, mm-hmm. but they weren't old enough to fight. those two generations were authentically religious. They grew up and really believed in their religious traditions, and through those religious traditions, they feared God. Right. Whether they were Catholics, Protestants, Jews, whatever, they really believed that God existed, and that they had a moral code that they must live up to. That morality was real, and that life continues after death, and that life here is temporary, right? So I think that framework for understanding reality, I think, is what made it is what made them at the end of their lives embrace the notion of retirement, the notion of passing the mantle,
pass that torch on,
passing resources on to the next generation, and also passing on positions of power, like political positions, positions running companies, positions of authority, passing those on to the next generation while they're still alive. That way, the next generation could tap into their experience and vast wisdom that they had accumulated over the years.
But that next generation became like pharaohs, dude.
Right, and specifically because the greatest generation and silent generation, they understood and realized that it wasn't all about them, right? Now, they had their issues too, but I'm not talking about those. I'm just talking about the boomers. The boomers are largely not religious. They'll say that they're spiritual and all this other bullshit.
Oh yeah.
But they literally believe that life is just about whatever makes you feel good. Just like doing some psychedelics, eating a 6-pack of donuts and smoking a little bit of weed and just having a good time. That's what life is all about. And if there's any suffering to be had, you must avoid it at all costs. That if you need to screw over someone who's younger in order so that you can remain comfortable,
keep the pleasures of life,
then that's what you have to do.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, and
you paid your dues.
Yeah, because ultimately, my suspicion is that most boomers don't really believe. They don't really have an authentic religious belief. They just believe that when they die, it's over. And I think that's the reason that you see these octogenarian and centenarian boomers they're clinging on to power and I think they're doing that because they fear dying.
Because it's game over, and they know it. The closer they get, the more real it becomes.
Yeah, but I think that's because they don't authentically believe. I think it's because they don't have any authentic religious beliefs. They don't fear God because they don't believe in God.
I agree with that.
And they don't buy into any real sense of objective morality. They just believe in having a good time, banging one another. Like the villages up there in North Florida.
Number one fucking STD.
Yeah. That's. I mean, if you want to understand boomer culture, go up there and
they are all boomers.
Yeah,
that's what lives there.
Yeah, and that's a case study in boomer culture. So I'm painting with a broad brush here. That's not all boomers. A lot of my favorite people in the world are boomers.
I have a bunch of boomers I respect madly. We're talking about the majority.
Yeah,
here.
but I'm talking about just averages.
Do you know how many drugs are done in the villages and how many STDs are passed around? Sexual transmitted diseases are fucking passed around the villages. Yeah. It's a very interesting case study, actually.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So that's the only thing I would say is I think that's the reason why Congress is basically like a giant nursing home with a hospice wing, is that you have a bunch of boomers that are afraid of death. They have death anxiety, and that death anxiety is manifesting itself in them clinging on to whatever power and whatever responsibility they can, because they believe that somehow delays the inevitable for them.
Well, without getting off the path too far, let me ask you a question then. A hypothetical question. Do you think, in your personal opinion, that is a trend that we will see being replicated over, let's take the next 50 years? Do you think that politicians will continue as we get older? Do you think that we will be old politicians into our 70s and 80s as well? Let's say millennials. No, because this next generation is going to be Gen X that would technically be going into their 40s and 50s.
Well, so Gen X are upper level management now in the country,
That's what I'm saying.
and lower level management in the country are millennials.
That's what I'm saying. So it's Gen X that should be in their 40s to 50s, correct?
Like late 40s. like mid to late 40s, 50s
to 50s. So, do you think that will be the next wave of politics? Will Gen X be politicians for the next 25 to 30 years?
You see, okay, so we're both millennials.
Correct.
And one thing I'll say is I think that millennials are just built differently from boomers. Even your most... So, okay, here. Let's look at like anti-war protesters in the late 60s and early 70s among the boomers.
Okay.
So you and I are both against war, so we would agree with them on that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm anti-war, yes.
But when you get into the core of what they were crusading for, the whole counterculture that they were fighting for, they were fighting for a new culture where they could just have unlimited sex with whoever they wanted to. Where they could just bang whatever they wanted to, whoever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to. They could inject themselves with whatever drugs they wanted to. They could just do whatever they want. It was just about them going out and just going out and living life for themselves.
Correct.
And just being all about pleasure, not thinking about anybody else. Now, when you look at millennials, when you look at the social justice warriors, right? The social justice warriors, as annoying as a lot of them are to me and to you, I respect them because a lot of them they're fighting for what they believe to be the good. Mm-hmm. You know, like when social justice warriors, for instance, are fighting for trans rights, they're fighting because they truly believe that. That a society where children are allowed to pursue whatever treatments they would need to change their biological sex, that is for that will foster a better society, that'll foster a better culture. Mm-hmm. I vehemently disagree with them, but I at least respect them because they're advocating for that because they legitimately believe that will make our world a better place. Mm-hmm. Boomers were just fighting for the right for them to just basically make their ding ding feel good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the difference here.
I get it.
You know, so yeah, I don't remember exactly where we were going with that, but
yeah, I thought I was debating Trump. You didn't answer my question at all.
I beat Medicare.
So yeah.
Okay.
So I my question was, do you think that Gen X, who will be is now they are taking positions or hold currently and are taking more positions of political status? Do you think they will be like boomers, and will they be the politicians for the next 25 or 30 years, or will they relinquish it over after a couple terms?
I think Gen X will relinquish. And the reason I say that is Gen X are a small generation. Mm-hmm. First of all, you know, boomers and millennials are massive generations.
Massive.
The Gen X is a small one, and Gen X is a generation that is much more. They have a tendency to keep to themselves a lot more than the millennials and the boomers do.
I agree with that.
And they're a much more protective generation. They're very security oriented, and they want to protect the people that are around them. Mm-hmm. So they're a generation that I think when they have the opportunity to step away, I think they will, because Gen X, they have a tendency to really value their close tribe more than anything else.
Do you think, now last question, do you think millennials will relinquish that power?
Millennials are a weird generation.
You think they're an outlier to that?
I think you're going to have some millennials who will step away. But then I think you have other millennials that will die in office because they're fighting for an ideological vision.
Got it.
You know?
That makes sense.
Now I think that's different because I know a lot of people our age that would consider themselves social justice warriors. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, I vehemently disagree with them, but a lot of them I think would be willing to die for what they believe in.
Oh, I know. They're so fucking delusional.
But the difference is boomers would not be willing to die for any of the stuff that they were fighting for. They just want to
maintain the power, the control, and the money.
Well, not just that, but they just want to have intercourse and do drugs. I mean, that's all that they want to do. Generally, that's what they've always been fighting for. And millennials, on the other hand, are fighting for a new vision of the world. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of millennials were raised by boomers, and boomers were all about like dismantling order, and I think because of that, millennials value order a lot, and they want to reorganize things in what they deem to be a better way.
Got it. All right. That answers it. Now I feel like, see, there you go. That was good. You didn't sidestep it.
Okay.
Like a fucking magician.
What do you think about Gen Z?
So I always get confused on that. Is there a Gen
Z are the ones that were born between like 2000 and
there's no
like 2015-ish.
What is Gen Y? There isn't one, right?
Yeah, I don't think there is a Gen Y.
It goes millennials to Gen Z, correct?
Yeah.
There's not something between that?
Then the kids that were born like just before COVID and during COVID who are still little kids now, that's Gen Alpha.
Oh, shouldn't it be? You know they're going to be pussies.
Hey, we don't know that. Dude, they may grow up and be the Rambo generation.
They're not going to be.
Dude, they might.
No, I'm calling it now.
No, dude, listen.
Clip it.
Yeah,
pussies.
Okay. No, dude. Listen, Gen Alpha. They may grow up. They may be the Rambo generation. These kids,
dude, they walk around like little Joe Bidens.
No.
Yeah,
that's because
they're shitting themselves and they can't make coherent sentences.
Do you want to know why? It's because they're babies.
It's because they're 3. Yeah. Yes, I stand by it.
But dude, you wait until they turn like 5 or 6. They're gonna be walking around like Rambo,
like little Donald Trumps.
Maybe. Yeah. They're gonna be They're gonna turn orange. You know.
Like a little Oompa Loompas walking around there. All right. So, anyways, Gen Z. My thought on Gen Z, and I have a lot of nieces and nephews, 9 of them to be exact. And for everything that I've seen from my close circle and their friends group, so I've just the way that they think and talk. I think the oldest one that
Are you saying they're not good at that?
And I know every generation says this is about the next generation. They busted our balls. Millennials doing all this. We got our balls busted all the time, and I get it. I can honestly say that simple thought process, right? Like the term street smart, I'm going to use it loosely. There's no street smart in Gen Z. They don't have a connection with the real world. They are absolutely clueless on how to sit down from someone like this and talk. They don't connect. That's what I'm gonna say. They don't know how to make actual connections, deep connections. For instance, when we dated, we grew up with technology, right? Now everything's so digitalized that their connections, or when they do make them, they're so involved in them that it has to be continuous. Like they talk to their friends, like you and I would talk, and then I wouldn't talk to you till tomorrow or the day after, right? Like it would be a small thing. They have to talk to their friends for the whole day. Their girlfriends, they'll FaceTime each other and go to sleep together and shit like that. They don't spend time apart, but it's all like digital time. They're not physically ever together.
They all sound like girlfriends.
They are. They're all just fucking weird.
Or they just don't stop?
Dude, they're always connected but never together. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So they're always communicating, but it's the lowest form of communication. For instance, like when you and I get together, right? Even when we were younger, like we would play a board game, right? Or we would fucking debate and talk. break up with a bottle of whiskey and fucking just talk and debate, right? And it was so much fun.
And and stoke other people to fight.
Like, yeah, we'd meet up at like coffee shops, stuff like that. They don't do that. They have the lowest form of communication. So like it would be equivalent to, what's an example? Like watching a movie together. We're spending time together, but it's the lowest form because we're not actually doing anything, right? They do that to communicate with everything. So it's either like they're playing video games together and talking through the mics. They're talking through their cell phones. But it's constant. They have like trackers on each other's phones so they know where each other at or all the times. They're always on fucking call. Like there's no time to self-reflect or to just enjoy being apart. So their little communities are always 100% on call. They're never disconnected. Like we could go outside and go bike riding and our parents didn't actually know where we were. That these kids always know where someone's at. They're always, everything's posted. Everything's a social currency. Every decision they make. And I find that very unique. Very unique. To where we didn't have that. We grew up with technology, and it's a huge part of our lives, right? Like, we're doing it right now. But we remember a time where you could disconnect. You'd go for a bike ride. We'd be out. We'd meet up at Starbucks. We weren't posting it. We weren't doing a live. We weren't texting with someone instantly. It's very weird to me. They don't disconnect, dude. They're plugged the fuck in.
Well, we grew up in a world where text messages cost like 10 cents.
10 cents a text.
And then to get on the internet, you had to dial up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm telling you, these kids are never disconnected. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying I think they don't even think, though. They don't learn simple concepts. And it's very strange to me. Very strange. But we'll see what happens. I'm just making an observation. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Fuck. We never know.
Well, and also, too, I'd imagine that all the COVID bullshit probably had a big impact on them, too. You know, that their last, year, 2 years, 3 years of like high school, for instance,
they even go
would have been online learning. Yeah, which online learning was a complete and total joke.
There's kids, they're still not going to school, though.
Yeah.
And not that I'm like a huge component of like public education. You had to send your kids to public education. I'm probably anti-public education for the most part.
Homeschool your kids.
Yes, I'm a big homeschool guy. I think that they can get, everyone's like, oh, but you don't want your kids to be weird. Fuck off. You know what? No, I don't want my kids to be like the majority of kids. So I don't want them to socialize with those fucking degenerate weirdos.
Do you want your kid to get to be traumatized and get bullied?
No,
and possibly get SA'd by a teacher?
Even past that, everyone's like, well, you don't want them to be socially awkward. They fucking already are. I don't want them to be like 98% of kids. They can still go. They can still have their church groups. They can still have their sports groups. They can still do when you do homeschooling. All the homeschool kids get together. They go on different trips. The curriculum is very different. I'm all for homeschooling. But anyways, totally off topic. I think that this generation, like you said, they're still not even, some of them never went back to school. They just kept homeschooling. And there's just nothing there, dude. They can't break down simple formulas because they don't know the steps necessary for them.
Well, I think one of the big problems is that we have allowed whack jobs to gain a foothold over the education system in America, and they basically made it so that kids are taught things that are really very pointless, and then the things that are worthwhile learning, they're taught in a way that the kids can't really. That's not easy for the kids to grasp.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Like, I'll give you an example off the top of my head. When kids are taught to learn are taught to read, there are two main methods that the kids will be taught how to read. They'll be taught literacy. One is phonics, and the other one they call whole language learning. So phonics is the thing where they say sound the word out.
We were big
right?
phonics, right? That was our big thing in the 90s. Yeah.
So phonics, you know, if you see the word CAT, cat, you go cat. Yeah. Then you connect the sound that you just sounded out to what you know a cat is. And you say, okay, so that's cat.
Cat.
And that's the strategy. That's the most efficient, that's the most efficacious strategy to teach children to learn how to read. Now, what happened back in the 80s and 90s was a bunch of like blue-haired academics from, I don't know, some school somewhere, like probably Princeton or Yale or Harvard or somewhere up there. They decided, well, we're going to change the game. We're going to change the game. We're going to do something totally different here. You know, learning how to read via phonics, that's old school. That's the way people did it back in the caveman days. We got a brand new idea. It's called whole language learning, where instead of teaching children the strategy to sound out the word, you teach children to memorize what the word looks like and then connect that to what cat is. So instead of teaching the child to sound the word out and based upon the sound of the word, connect that to the sound of like what you know cat is. You know, you look at a cat and you say cat. So what phonics will tell you is sound the word out, cat. And that phonetic sound, you connect that to what you know a cat is, right? Whole language learning says you should memorize what the word cat looks like, CAT, like a flashcard, and then remember that is the animal cat.
So like memorization?
Right. And so when a child looks at like a sentence, what the whole language learning academics would say is children should look at a sentence as being like a series of flashcards.
And but you're not visualizing pictures. I don't understand. What's the correlation?
Well, these people are idiots that came up with this method. And this method is the reason that we have such an atrocious rate of illiteracy in America today, is because back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, these idiots were taken seriously and they were allowed to roll out whole language learning and replace phonics in certain communities. A lot of the communities that they were able to get a foothold of were impoverished communities, like in the inner cities and things. So those kids who were growing up in poverty, they not only were growing up in poor circumstances and a lot of the time broken homes, they also were not taught to read.
Yeah, but even for instance, the newspaper's never been written above a 6th grade level, right?
Right.
For consumption reasons?
Right, but the thing is, humans have been taught, at least in the West, from the very beginning to learn how to read using phonics, how to read phonetically. But these whack jobs said, well, what we're going to do is teach kids to learn how to read based upon like a sentence being a series of flashcards. Now, what their research was based on is that when you look at expert readers, like people like you and I who've been reading our entire lives who enjoy reading books, think about when you read a book. You're not using phonics to sound words out. You and I are typically looking at the word and we're just recognizing it. Like you see the word cat on a page, you just know that's cat.
Correct.
You see the word the on the page. You know that word is the. Now, if you come across a word that you're not familiar with, like let's say you come across a word like disestablishmentarianism. That's a word you don't come across very often. You may not recognize what that word looks like. So you may, in your mind, take like an extra, it may take you like 2 or 3 times longer to process that word than you would any other. But the method that you're going to use in that word is you're going to use phonics on it. You're going to say disestablishmentarianism, right? And so you're going to end up using phonics. You're going to use the strategy of phonics on words that you're not familiar with. But most words you encounter are words that you encounter on a regular basis. So you're going to be using whole language learning, but that's the strategy that's used by people that are seasoned expert readers, not for new readers.
Not to teach new readers.
Right.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, no, I agree with you.
Now, an interesting study on phonics, though, is the only group of kids that whole language learning seemed to benefit were dyslexic kids.
I'm dyslexic.
Well, you probably would have benefited then from learning whole language
Son of a bitch.
from the very beginning.
Do me a favor real quick. When you title this episode, can you title it whatever you want, the debate, right? The debate, and then transfer of power, and then the last part, kids who can't read really, really good.
And for you, I'm going to write it all backwards.
Yeah, thank you. No. Just the first letter and the last letter are the same, but then you can mix the rest up. And I usually only mix like... It's not reading that I had a problem with, by the way. Fuckhead. So I actually did have a problem reading. I couldn't read until the 8th grade at grade level. True story. By 8th grade, I was reading at a 6th grade level. And then by 9th grade, I was reading at an 8th grade level. And then by 10th grade, I was reading at a 12th grade level. And then after that, I read just fine. And it's the fucking outsiders that did it for me in 8th grade. We had a teacher quit. And I read that book. I'm not kidding. We had so many subs and so many replacement teachers within a 3-month period. I read the book 4 times because we had to. I wrote 2 reports on it, and we watched the movie 3 times. And something about it just kickstarted it for me. Dude, being dyslexic was so hard for me to actually read. Even now, like, reading, super easy for me. I read... I would be aggressive to say a book a week. That's not true. I'd be lying. I probably read... 2 books a month, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, on average, probably two books a month. Sometimes I get caught and I do 1 if I get busy. But writing, even to this day, I know how to spell. If you actually look at me writing, if it's not for ABC check, like I'm writing pen to paper, and you can read my script, my cursive, you will see letters flipped around all the time. The first letter will be the same, last letter will be the same. Somewhere in there, 2 letters will be flipped around for no reason. It will all the letters will be there. They'll just be flipped. Don't know. I don't do it with numbers, though, so fucking weird. Totally off topic.
Here, give me a minute. Keep talking.
I was just talking about being dyslexic and the disadvantages. Makes you look fucked up. Are you looking up a dyslexic stat? Mm-hmm. Oh, don't like that. Is it the one where, are you going to pull up the thing where I have to read it, but all the shit's spelt wrong? I can do it just fine, fuckhead.
Oops.
No, it's not what you're doing.
No, I'm looking up. Here.
You got it?
So I just Googled famous people that were dyslexic.
Dude, so many people.
Muhammad Ali, Keira Knightley, Cher, Jay Leno, Whoopi Goldberg.
Dude, there's thousands of
Jennifer Aniston.
Okay, you're just naming like modern famous people.
Anderson Cooper, Caitlyn Jenner.
These are all shitty people. go to like historical dyslexic people. There's a ton of one. You're just naming a bunch of fucking people I would hate to be associated with. Keira Knightley would be nice though.
Yeah,
God, I had the biggest crush on her.
Yeah, she was beautiful in her
dude,
prime.
Bend it like Beckham.
Dude, hey, Danny Glover.
Oh, not Danny fucking Glover, dude.
Who's Harry Anderson?
No, fuck, dude. I don't.
do you know who that is?
These are horrible people. Go to historical figures that were dyslexic. There's a bunch that would blow your fucking mind, pal. Okay, because you're just naming a bunch of losers right now.
Here I've got Gary Cohn.
No.
Robert Woodruff.
No, stop. Give me someone better.
Sir Peter Leitch.
No, dude. No one cares about those.
Christopher Lowell.
No.
John Britton. Tommy Hilfiger.
I'll take it. Okay, I got one.
I didn't know this. Aaron Brockovich.
Awesome. Cool. Fuck you, all those court cases.
Woodrow Wilson.
Okay. Dude, this sucks. Okay, maybe I'm not dyslexic. I was kidding. I was joking.
Who's Brad Little?
I don't know.
Do you know who that is?
No, fuck no. I wish I didn't know those other people you named. You didn't name anyone cool. I looked it up once and I saw a bunch of cool people.
Pierre Curie.
Awesome. Who the fuck is that?
He's the husband of the woman that died from radiation poisoning because she kept on touching uranium or something.
All right, buddy. Let's get to our last point.
Do you want here? I'm gonna pick somebody on here at random.
It better be a fucking great one because right now I'm sad I can't fucking write.
Okay. Here, I've got two that I think you'll be pretty impressed with.
Okay.
Agatha Christie and F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald's cool. Great Gatsby?
Yeah.
Dude, love that book.
I didn't like that book.
I love that book.
I thought it was weird.
What are you talking about?
It was more the way it was written.
It's one of the greatest stories of all time. It's phenomenal.
I mean, listen, I don't feel all that strongly about The Great Gatsby either way.
I'm a big fan.
I think it's a little bit overrated.
I think you're overrated.
Oh, so one thing I am going to do before the next time we podcast, I plan on reading. I want to try to read a couple of good short stories by Flannery O'Connor.
Why?
I hear that she's pretty good. She's pretty damn good.
All right, I'll read one.
Yeah.
Remind me.
If you read one, I'll read two.
I'm not going to tell you I'm going to read, but it's going to be more than you. How about that?
Okay, so here, let's end on this final thing. So we'll get back to the debate thing. Will Joe Biden be replaced?
That's what I wanted.
And if he will be replaced, by whom?
Joe Biden will absolutely not be replaced. It's too late. They have to die on that hill. This is Hillary Clinton 2016. Not enough time. No one popular enough. Absolutely not. The people saying that they're going to get Hillary Clinton, delusional. The people saying they're going to get Michelle Obama, delusional. The people that are saying they're going to leave Joe Biden in there, get rid of Kamala Harris and put Barack Obama and then replace Barack Obama because technically that's a loophole, delusional. Joe Biden, they're going to take his sick ass across the finish line and they're going to lose this, and Donald Trump will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
Let me tell you what isn't delusional. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden is going to get replaced, and he's going to get replaced by Gavin Newsom.
No.
And unfortunately, well, okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll say this. I think the odds are 50-50. I think there's a 50% chance that Joe Biden is replaced by Gavin Newsom. And I think if Gavin Newsom replaces Joe Biden, that Gavin Newsom wins the election.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Listen, I do not like Gavin Newsom, but I think it will probably happen.
If anything, they'll never reconcile, dude. All
right, here I've got a question for you. What would you say, or what group would you say is the largest voting bloc in America?
By
just demographically, what demographic group would you say are the largest voting bloc in America? Like what group of registered voters makes up the largest number? What's the largest voting bloc in America?
The largest registered voters?
Yeah, the largest group.
Well, it's got to be white women, right?
Mm-hmm. It's women in general.
Oh, okay. I was supposed to say white women.
And
sorry.
What I'm going to say this. Okay.
Is it not specifically white women?
Well, I'm just saying women.
Okay.
Women make up women are the largest voting bloc in America. And you know as well as I do, Gavin Newsom, he's got charisma and he's got great hair.
So there was Kennedy won.
Mm-hmm. And not just that. I think that Donald Trump typically does not do all that well with women in general. Gavin Newsom will do super, super well with women. And that is why I think he'll end up beating Donald Trump.
I don't think it's enough time to even get a realistic campaign for that to matter, man.
But look at it this way.
You're talking about 5 fucking months.
So think about it like this. The Trump campaign, all the way until if Joe Biden gets replaced, up until the point that he is replaced, the Trump campaign is going to be focused. Their strategy is going to be focused on defeating Joe Biden. Correct. They're going to be taking out. They're going to be buying TV ad space and everything, and they're going to be running. They're going to be running ads that are criticizing the job that Joe Biden has done for all these years. So, the Democrats, if they swap Biden, or if they end up replacing Biden with Gavin Newsom, then all the work that has been done attacking Joe Biden will all be for naught. And Gavin Newsom will be the new guy. And Gavin Newsom's charismatic. And Gavin Newsom's got great hair.
Dude, the majority of people, I promise you right now, the majority of your average day Americans do not know who he is.
Right. But so this is the thing. Gavin Newsom, if he's able to get on a debate stage a couple of times with Donald Trump, I think he'll do quite well. If you remember watching the debate between Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis, remember about how the two states handled COVID and everything?
There's only 2 more debates scheduled, Shane. One's in September, isn't it?
So, yeah, there's a one in September. I think there's another one. And there may end up being more that get scheduled, because I'll tell you one thing. Donald Trump loves to get in front of a camera. You know that as well as I do. In fact, Donald Trump admitted that and said that at the in the interview that he did like the week before the last debate. So my guess is, if Gavin Newsom replaces Joe Biden, that Gavin immediately, the Newsom campaign is going to try to get Gavin Newsom in front of they're going to try to get Gavin Newsom. They're going to try to schedule as many debates with Donald Trump as possible. That's what they're going to do. And the thing is, man, Gavin Newsom is an expert salesman. Donald Trump is an expert salesman too, right? But the thing is, you're going to be dealing with basically the Democrats' version of Donald Trump.
I hear you. I don't think it's enough time to transition this. I think we leave it on this point.
Okay,
and we set a poll out.
Here. Okay, yeah. We'll do a poll, but here, one last thing though. Think about it like this. The Trump campaign, they've been laser focusing their strategy on defeating Joe Biden, on running attack ads, creating attack ads to attack Joe Biden.
Resources into the wrong person.
And also to think about it like this: progressives and all these other different these different factions that the Democrats have got to unite behind their candidate in order to win. They're all really, really angry at Joe Biden for his handling of this whole Israel thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like Joe Biden is probably going to lose the state of Michigan because of his basically blank check and no red lines on allowing the Israelis. Yeah. And I think Michigan has got a massive Muslim population.
Yeah.
In compare, I mean, it's not huge, but it's very large in comparison to the other states. And
Dearborn's Muslim. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, and a lot of the Muslims that live there, a lot of them have family members that live in the West Bank and in Gaza. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of them have family members that have died or have been severely injured as a result of the ongoing conflict over there.
Correct.
They're not happy with the Biden administration just carte blanche allowing the Israelis to do whatever they want. Now, the thing is, if the Democrats flip the script and the Democrats replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom, they can craft the narrative that Gavin Newsom is going to be more friendly toward, or that Gavin Newsom is going to put strict red lines on the Israelis. Because the thing is, Gavin Newsom doesn't have a real presidential track record to attack the way that Joe Biden does. Mm-hmm. You know?
The way Donald Trump does.
The way Donald Trump does, too. And the thing is, Joe Biden, you know, the whole debacle in Afghanistan and everything, there are a lot of people that are still mad about that. That's not on Gavin Newsom. And the thing is, Gavin Newsom is very articulate. He's very confident, very charismatic, and he's a great debater. And that's the only thing I say is, in my mind, I believe if the Democrats replace Joe Biden with anybody else other than Gavin Newsom, I think Trump wins the election. I think if the Democrats replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom, I think there's a really good chance that Trump loses and Gavin Newsom wins.
Okay, I'm calling it now. I think Donald Trump's the next president of the United States.
I agree with you as long as they don't replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom.
I don't think anybody's replacing Joe Biden.
Oh, so this is sort of related, but it's not. So Jeffrey Toobin, do you know who he is?
I do not.
He is a commentator on CNN.
Okay.
People know Jeffrey Toobin because he is best known for I'm trying to think of the way to say this without getting us banned on YouTube.
Don't get us banned. Just say a fake word.
Okay, so he's an anchor on CNN.
Okay.
And he got suspended from CNN a couple of years ago because he was yanking his crank in a Zoom meeting with all the other CNN anchors. I don't know if it was live on air or not, but I know that it was with the other anchors, some of those anchors being females.
Pulling the willy?
Mm-hmm, yep. And he got suspended, but of course, CNN being the very, very understanding, compassionate people that they are, they ended up reinstating him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, Jeffrey Toobin, the night of the debate, in the post-debate analysis, they were talking about possibly replacing Joe Biden, and somebody had asked Jeffrey Toobin about, well, what about Michelle Obama? And Jeffrey Toobin said that he thought it was very unlikely that. Or he either said he thought it was very unlikely or that he thought it was possible, one of the two, that Joe Biden would be replaced by Big Mike.
Big Mike?
Referring to Michelle Obama.
That's fucking hilarious,
Yeah.
dude. Because she's so fucking rich.
Dude, yes, yeah.
Dude.
So the thing is,
that's funny.
The guy that got kicked off of CNN for
freeing his willy.
Yeah, exactly.
Free willy.
Yeah, free willy. He and the thing is, like, people really didn't make a big deal about it. He was just like, well, Big Mike, and people were just like, oh yeah, Big Mike.
Dude, that's fucking hilarious. Well, what a good spot. Let's put up that poll. I want to see what people think.
Okay.
Will Joe Biden be replaced as a Democratic nominee?
Okay.
I think it's an easy answer, no.
And
we'll see.
And if he is replaced,
by
who would he be replaced by?
Yeah, in the comments under, who would replace him?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get that poll up on this one.
All right, let's do it.
And then we'll go over the results on the next one.
And I think, depending on what next week looks like, either the next podcast or two podcasts from now, we will be joined by a special guest straight from the other side of the country.
Yes, and I'm very excited about that one. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, all right, brother. Good shit, man.
It was a lot of fun.
Guys, love you. See you soon.